in the perfect city, you don't need cycle tracks because you don't have any cars, right? If you don't have any cars, you don't need cycle tracks. But the fact is that we have cars in our cities. So, the way that things have been designed here, giving cyclists their own space in the hierarchy, right? Pedestrians, cyclists, and motor vehicles. That's what we have to do now in cities, and that is why Copenhagen is a model city for the rest of the world. Even in Copenhagen, we have politicians who will resist, large-scale bicycle projects, but not very seriously. Even the right wing, they know now that it works. It pays off to invest in bicycle infrastructure. They can't argue. The only thing that the right-wing politicians here fight for are parking spots, because they still think that that's a necessity. Like that's all they have left. That's the only little thing that they can reach for. So that's what they talk about. We have 8 new bicycle bridges coming over the harbor. That wouldn't happen unless all the parties voted for that in the city budget, right? So you have all the politicians across the board have said yes to 8 new bicycle bridges. I mean, in 10 years it's going to be like Paris here. We're going to have like all the bridges across, but it's all going to be bicycle and pedestrian. That is a wild investment, which comes from all the parties. So political will is incredibly important. But here we have a tradition, the city of Copenhagen, for documenting. So we gather data more than any other city in the world. So we know how many people are riding bicycles on any street in the city at any given time, because the city counts all the different traffic users all the time. So when you're presented with data, it doesn't matter who you're showing it to, they're, oh God, I can't argue with data. Data is gold. And when I'm working with other cities and cities that are just starting on this journey to becoming bicycle friendly, what do we do? Where do we start? And I say infrastructure is important, but you know what? You need data. You got to get people out there counting how many cyclists, because if you say to the politician, we need a cycle track here. Oh, there's no bikes there. I drive past twice a day, I see 5 bikes. But they're not there on the corner, standing there all day long. And in St. Petersburg, for example, this is one of the cities I was in recently, I'm going, you got to count. And they're out counting now, and there's like maybe 600 cyclists, and the politicians are 600 a day. That's like a lot. That's like 10 buses. Yeah, they didn't know that. Nobody knows that. So data helps sell the idea. It helps encourage political will. People still say, we can't take out car parking here because our shops will go out of business if you want to take car parking and put in bicycle infrastructure. They don't know how people get to their shops. There's big neighborhoods in Istanbul, everywhere in the world. Most, 80% arrive on foot, or by public transport because it's their neighborhood. So there's a lot of misconceptions which can be solved with gathering data and providing people with information. That inspires even the most hardcore anti-bicycle or anti-urbanist politician. You can't argue with data. So that encourages political will. So here, there's absolutely no problem because they see it working every single day. And for example, there was a poll last year in Copenhagen. 67% of all motorists want more bicycle infrastructure. There's not many cities on the planet where you would get that result in a poll like that. That's because they see it. That guy's sitting in his car, and he's got 3 people in front of him at a red light, and he sees 100 people on bicycles here. And he knows if those 3, morons, if they were over on bicycles, I would be the first one at the red light. So they can see the big picture right there. And so the average citizen can see it, politicians can see it, the health benefits are something that we have been benefiting from for many, many years, so that you can't argue with it. That helps the politicians make the right decisions, absolutely. The next hurdle is the engineers, who have come from an engineering education that is unchanged for 60 years. If you study traffic engineering, you're learning the same thing as the guy did in 1958. Really, the computer models are the same, like nothing has changed. So that's the next hurdle is encouraging engineers and planners to start thinking differently, which is happening around the world, but still this is also a slow process. So that needs politicians to say to the traffic engineering department, shut up. I don't want to hear your models from 1961 that say we can't do this and that. And now we have to think differently. And there's enough cities, not just Copenhagen, but cities around the world that are just doing it. Paris, Barcelona, Dublin, Seville, Buenos Aires. There was no bicycles left in these cities, in 2006. Now they're well on their way to becoming bicycle friendly. It's not just Copenhagen anymore. It's Seville going from 0.2% on bikes to 7 in only 5 years. Dublin from 0.3% to almost 10% in the city center in only 5 years. So this is what's possible. What we've done slowly here for 40 years, nobody was hurrying us up. We were just sort of, the city was just slowly improving, testing, making mistakes, fixing them, ending up at this best practice that we have here. What we did here for 40 years can be done in 5 or 10 in any city on the planet with the political will, with educating the politicians, and then getting the engineers and planners on board, and then you see it happening in a very short time.